What is up, and welcome back to Beyond the Arc with Brandon Silvers. As always, I am your host, Brandon Silvers. Thought it would be nice to put a bow on the NHL season as the Stanley Cup Finals end, so had to welcome back my dear friend Nick Fogle. Nick, how's it going?
It's going very good. Yeah, man. How are you?
Cannot complain. I know you had a late night due to the ECHL playoffs, which we will talk about later. But I cannot thank you enough for putting me on to hockey when you did. Well, reintroducing me to hockey when you did, because the Stanley Cup final between the Las Vegas Golden Knights and the Carolina Hurricanes was absolutely incredible. Is it always this action-packed? I've just been missing out on this the whole time?
I think there's different aspects from a hockey fan standpoint or just a sports fan. I think it is, but this matchup was very fun to watch, and I almost like it that it was not a David versus Goliath type of matchup. It was like just two really good teams that kind of took different roads to get to this point, but they were both really awesome, and hey, they both got there. So
yes. And we talked about, I'll pull up the bracket real quick. In the preview, we talked about the road that Carolina in particular took, where first round sweep, second round sweep, conference finals, 4-1 against Montreal, kind of looking like a buzzsaw. And then we get to game one, and Vegas comes out and shocked me by beating them in game one 5-4, but also because the Hurricanes got out to an early, they scored two goals pretty quickly. The first goal came I don't even know if I sat down on the couch all the way. But Vegas fought back to win that game in Raleigh. We've talked about how, they're clearly two evenly matched teams, but was that a little bit of a shock to you that Vegas came out against the Carolina team that looked so good throughout the postseason and stole one on the road to open up the series?
I would say it's not a shock just because Vegas, basically the entire playoffs, they found a way against whoever they were playing. And every series they won up until the final, they found a way to make the other team play their style. So I was not shocked. I kind of expected Vegas to do some of that, and they did. So it was like, all right, so Vegas is going to pull this. What's Carolina going to do to keep up? So that's kind of where we were at, and I think that's what made it fun to watch.
Yes, because you were right. You talked about the Vegas's ability to control the pace of things when we did the preview, and that kind of is what stood out even throughout the rest of the series, where you could kind of tell Carolina, just as a casual fan, they like to fire away. I believe you were saying that in the preview too, but Vegas made it to where they weren't really doing that. Just looking back, I went back and looked at the stats of the regular season and early in the playoffs. They weren't putting up the shot numbers that they had been throughout the entire postseason when it came to the Stanley Cup final. It was obviously still a good team. They ended up winning, but it wasn't what it was. How is Vegas able to do that while also, Vegas they're not what the soccer term, I guess, is parking the bus. They're not parking the bus. They're also attacking too and scoring a lot of goals.
Yeah, I think it's their play in the neutral zone and just the way that their flow and their strategy, and just when you watch them play, they really dictate so much, and yeah, they're their own machine. So you definitely expected a lot of what they did.
Yeah, because even like game 2, it was almost like a reverse of game 1, where Vegas comes out and they get a quick 2-goal lead against Carolina, and then Carolina has to come back and win it in overtime. At this point, after game 2, I am all in on hockey because it's just full on. We're just going back and forth, throwing haymakers at each other now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was a fun series to watch, and there's a little bit of drama with the goalie situation with yeah.
Yes. So talk a little bit about that, because that was game 3, correct? Where again, at this point, like I could not believe how each game everything just ratcheted up to where game 3, Mitch Marner for the Golden Knights, was it like the fastest hat trick in Stanley Cup history or something?
Yeah, Mitch. Yeah, I mean, I consider him. He's got superstar status. I mean,
I would say now for sure.
Yeah. I mean, so you kind of knew some guys on Vegas. It's like these guys are going to come. They're going to bring it, and it's like with Carolina, a team full of, I would say, mostly non-superstars, but just a core of an amazing team. How's this going to match up?
Yeah, because like you have Marner score the hat trick, and Vegas is just running away with game 3. They make the goalie switch. How common is it to make a goalie switch like this in the postseason?
I think, like, in the modern day, you've seen it some, and I think that I wouldn't be surprised moving forward. You'll see this because in the modern day you have backup. You call them backup goalies. I don't know if that's really the right term. It's almost like 1A, 1B for a lot of teams. Not every team is structured like that, but that has become a little more common than it used to be in, say, traditional years, where you're going back in hockey history and most teams just have their starter and they have a true backup, right? And there's usually a noticeable, maybe, talent difference between the starter and the backup, right? But now a lot of teams have a 1A and a 1B. So you've got another guy that's just as capable, and there's not a gap there as much as you would think of like a talent. They're pretty close. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure they felt confident with the two guys they had, and if needed, it's like, give this other guy a shot and see what happens. And, well, history, you see what happens. They made history.
And I wonder how much of that, with Carolina's coach Rod Brindamore also being a former goalie, kind of having a feel for, all right, we got to make a move. And it's like, you're not going to get any worse than down 4-0 in the second period. So you might as well see what happens. And like, just having that goalie background, I wonder how much that plays into it. And it paid off.
Rod wasn't a goalie.
Rod wasn't a goalie. Okay. I don't know why I thought he was a goalie. See, this is why you're here. What position did he play?
He was a forward, so center. He was a forward. Probably
not as many ripped goalies as there are forwards. I should have known by the physique.
Yeah, he's definitely a forward. So, but he's an amazing coach, and I think he reads his players very well. Not saying that other coaches don't, but he knew what was needed for the right time, and hey, it was the right move. I'm not going to question Rod.
No, and Carolina came back in this game with 4 goals in the third period, and they had 3 of them within, I swear, it was like 40 seconds. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden we're in a game. They did end up losing that game in overtime, but it did feel like, to me, kind of something had clicked where it seemed like Vegas we might be looking at, like, I don't know, maybe like a 5 or 6 game Vegas series win, but then that seemed to like reinvigorate
Right.
Carolina. Was that the feeling you got too?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that, and a lot of people coming into this, it's interesting to hear, and I don't know if people will remember, but going into this series, oh, this is not going to be a very exciting series. This is going to be boring hockey. There was a lot of kind of that narrative that was kind of being, a picture that was being painted. And I thought to myself, I don't think so, because if you look at the style that Vegas plays, and then you look at Carolina, who just shoots a crazy amount of shots, I don't think so. And, this series goes 6 games, that goes pretty deep. So I knew we were going to be in for a ride of good entertainment. And I feel like that's what we got.
Yes, because that was what we talked about in the preview as well. Was there was some concern with it not being non-traditional markets, and we had the discussion of not really a discussion, more of a very strong agreement that ratings don't really matter. Like, you can have an entertaining series even if people aren't watching. And I did look, interestingly enough, it doesn't prove anything one way or the other, but I've only seen it through 5 games, but the ratings here, Yahoo.com, by way of awful announcing, viewership through 5 games, the highest mark since 2013.
So that goes right against all the people that said this would get poor ratings. Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
they were wrong.
Yeah.
Yes.
They were wrong.
And it does it does say in here, which is kind of still goofy to me, that if the series had featured an original 6 team, viewership may have been stronger. Okay, fine, whatever. But as we theorized, diehard hockey fans were going to watch this no matter what. It would be like, as a Carolina Panthers fan, I didn't watch the Super Bowl because the Panthers weren't in the Super Bowl. Like, I'm going to watch the Super Bowl. You're not going to skip the main event in the sport just because your team isn't in it.
Right.
That was just that was proven goofy, I think we can definitively say.
Yeah.
And then Carolina closes it out with back-to-back wins. Game 6, really the least competitive game of the series. So just overall, what were your takeaways from this series about either side, and like what led to Carolina being able to pull this off and win the Stanley Cup final? 20-year anniversary of the last time, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it ended up being the right group of players. It's almost like the Goldilocks, if you will. And we can say, it's easy to say that now, hey, they won, but that's truly what it was, because they always had good teams going into, before this, playoffs, before the season. But this was the year that it all comes together. It all works. It's just the right, perfect team. And I think a big part of the credit goes to, the GM for the Carolina Hurricanes, Eric Tulsky. I mean, he puts together this, amazing team. And I'm just doing a little bit of background. So he was he was promoted officially to the permanent GM role on June 18th of 2024. So relatively new in this role. It's not like he'd been there for years. It said he was briefly served in an interim capacity following the resignation of the longtime general manager, Don Waddell, who had been there a very long time. So, and I dug a little more deeper into Tulsky's background, and this guy had some background in nanotechnology and data science. And I'm like, okay.
Huh.
So you're talking like analytics, and which is, I'm sure you've heard all about the analytics and with all of the professional sports and how this is used. And That's a whole nother conversation, probably for another day. But yes, going back to how did this team get it done? I think that Tulski's background, and he made the right moves of building this roster.
I think that the analytics part is interesting because you do have to kind of thread the needle on that because people think about it a lot with baseball, but I'm thinking basketball. There, Daryl Morey, who was the GM of the Houston Rockets and then the Philadelphia 76ers. He's a guy who was very analytic heavy, to the point where he doesn't really consider things like personality or personality fit, team chemistry. And his teams have never been able to really get over the hump as a result. So you have to be able to balance both of them, which I would say that Tulski appears to have done since they have won. So that is interesting. And we did not give enough credit to the goalie, Brandon Bussey, because I know you mentioned it and I looked it up too. Former Chipotle employee. I was also reading that he struggled a lot with perfectionism and how that just gave him like a negative mindset and put too much pressure on himself to where he just couldn't really perform at his best.
Right.
And then you come in the biggest stage in hockey off the bench and you lead your team to the Stanley Cup. Like, hell of a story. We got to see him in some Chipotle commercials coming up, you would think, right?
Right. Yeah. He definitely should take should take the lead on that. But yeah, Bussy. I mean, he's a 27-year-old rookie that goes undrafted. That right there, everyone thinks for championship teams, and this is a whole other conversation for another day. Another day too. When you talk about professional drafts in sports, whether you're talking about the NHL draft or other sports and their drafts. And I'm not saying drafts are not important, but I think that people put a lot more weight into a draft. And right here, you have a guy that, yes, he didn't play the majority of the games, but he did come in and he got the job done when he was called upon. And he's an undrafted player. So what does that tell you? Like,
That's crazy.
there's not just always one single road of, or if you're drafted, you're going to find success. That's the only way. There are other ways you can get there, and that's what people should keep in mind. But I think with Bussy, it was almost his body language too. I forget which game it was. They interviewed him after the game, and he was just having fun. And I don't know if he just played that off really well, but it was what he said. He didn't seem like the pressure was getting to him. He didn't seem to fall into really anything negative, or at least I couldn't tell. This guy's just enjoying the moment.
Which is like, that is incredible to be able to do when you're called on in that moment. And I guess you could look at it as like, well, there's nothing to lose because I'm coming in, we're down. The game I'm coming in, we're down by 4 goals. No one's expecting anything. But to be able to like hold on to that throughout the entire series, it's just I love to see it. It's one of my favorite parts of sports is like this human side where you see people embrace the best parts of themselves and kind of like overcome other parts of themselves and grow to achieve something great. Like it's just so much fun. This is why I watch sports. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I don't know. It was just incredible. And I want to share this too, because I did not know this until I was doing some research, but very light research. If you watch, you know this, but there was a significant playoff drought for Carolina before hiring Brindamore. And they haven't missed it since and have kind of been building towards this. And it looks like the GM promotion finally puts them over the hump. But yeah, there was some a drought here in Raleigh for a bit. But yeah, Brenda Moore, like, I don't know, just nice to see that again in a non-traditional market, like we've been talking about every time you've been on. So looking forward to the offseason. What does the NHL offseason look like in terms of, we just talked about the draft. Is the draft, is it a summer draft, or do they hold it in the middle of the season like baseball does, which is confusing for everybody?
Well, I know they've already made the picks. I have to actually go back and check and see when they're actually making the actual picks this summer. But I know that every team knows their placement of like.
Okay, so done the draft lottery.
The lottery's complete. That part is complete. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like going into the off season. Yeah, is it going to be? Are you going to? It's hard to gauge whether it's going to be a lot of big moves or a lot of, or is it going to be kind of quiet? I always think it might be a little quiet, but there's going to be a couple moves that might surprise people. But I think this is now that the Stanley Cup final has concluded and this is, complete. You're going to start hearing things heat up a little bit. So. Give it another day or two, and then you're going to start seeing the rumors are cooking as we speak.
Awesome. And I've pulled up the draft order through the first 16 picks here on the screen. Looks like the draft will be first round June 26th, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, ESPN, and then rounds 2 through 7 June 27th, starting at 11 a.m. So that's neat. So yeah, even more impressive knowing that there's 7 rounds, that Bussy was undrafted and here he is,
right,
Stanley Cup champion.
Right. And I personally, for really any sport, I do not put a lot of heavy weight into a draft. I don't get very excited over it. Now, say if it was somebody that I knew personally, then I would for them, like being happy for someone getting drafted. That's the reason why I would get it. But if I don't actually know someone personally, why am I glued into this? Because I don't want to put too much weight into Toronto or San Jose or Vancouver into who they're picking, because there's no guarantee who they pick is going to A, work out for them, or B, if they even spend many seasons there, who knows? They might get traded. There's just so many what ifs that could go in this direction or that direction. The draft is the draft. You need a draft, but it's not. I don't put a ton of weight into it.
So hockey has a farm system similar to baseball. That's how I think of it. We've talked about the Stingrays being an affiliate and everything. Mm-hmm. How rare is it for, let's say, Toronto, they have the number 1 pick. How often does the number 1 pick start at the NHL level versus having to work their way up?
Usually in the first round, you're give or take, your top 5 or 6, 7 guys, maybe more. A lot of first round guys are going to be starting with their teams. Obviously, there's a few. It kind of depends on the age, the development, the team need. They may send the guy to their AHL club to get some time, just because if they send him to the AHL club, he could get a little experience there and kind of heat things up a bit, if you will. So, but once you get past, the first round, a lot of those guys, are going to be going, playing elsewhere before they're able to come up to the big club.
Okay, so it's kind of like in between basketball and baseball. Do NHL teams tank for better picks? Do they lose on purpose?
Well, they're never going to come out and officially say that. So they'll tell you no. But a lot of people would speculate and say that they did, but that's only for us to say is our opinion, right?
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Interesting. That seems very risky. Well, I guess not. Not if I mean if you got a generational player. Okay. So we've
Yeah.
got the draft covered. We've got the off season. We don't really know what that's looking like yet. So let's talk about the reason you did not get a ton of sleep last night.
Yes.
We are here in Charleston, home of the Stingrays ECHL team. Nick also has some ties to the Florida Everblades, who eliminated the Stingrays this postseason. And the Everblades are in they made it to the Kelly Cup final,
Right. Kelly Cup final, right?
taking
So,
on the team from Kansas City. And I know I paid attention to this series for two games, the first two games, and I believe Kansas City outscored Florida like 11-2 in two games, the first two games.
yeah. Yeah.
And
Those
I was
first
like,
two games, unreal.
I was like, I getting back into hockey. I only have got limited time. I'm going to focus on the Stanley Cup final if this series isn't going to be competitive. And it turns out I was wrong. So, kind of break down for us what happened after that second game that Kansas City won on their home ice in Independence, Missouri, it says.
Yeah. Yeah. They, I think that's just outside of the city limits of Kansas City, Missouri. But yeah, so this series was essentially all home ice, which, you look at the first two games, and I think I sent you a text, and I was like, oh boy, this is the Florida Everblades have always been a machine in recent years of just in the minor league hockey and for professional team, they're a machine. But Kansas City is a whole different machine because if you look at those first two games, wow, like this is going to
Yeah.
be tough. Um, then it goes, the series shifts because in the ECHL for travel constraints, so they go 2, 3, and then 2. So it's still best of 7. But the team that wins, they're the top seed. They get the first two games at home, so Kansas City, and then they would get, if needed, they would get 6 and 7 back at home, right? So Florida goes down 0-2 at Kansas City, and I'm thinking, man, they're in a bit of a hole. But guess what? They're going back to home ice. They're going back to Estero, Florida, where they'll have an opportunity to play in a more comfortable, known environment, right?
Apparently that did the trick because, I think too, what was interesting just looking at it, like those were two blowouts in Kansas City, and then Florida kind of barely wins the next two games in overtime. But a win is a win, so it doesn't matter. You're even. And then pivotal game 5 again in Florida. They win 5-2. So now Florida's up 3-2, heading back to Missouri. You watch this game. I will not reveal the score yet on the screen. Just talk us through what happened game 6.
Right. So basically, game 6, it was a good game. And I want to say the biggest thing that stands out to me is the shots. I don't have the numbers exactly in front of me, but Florida was up by a lot on shots. But as the game goes on, Kansas City had a lead on them. And it got all the way to the third period. Kansas City had a 4-1 lead. With that said, I think Florida was still leading them by years. I want to say exaggerating, but they were leading them by shots. And I'm thinking, man, they're getting the shots. They're just not going in. And the bounces are going Kansas City's way, and I'm thinking, all right, this is going to a game 7. I mean, it's 4-1, right? What anyone looking at this, okay, it would take almost a near miracle, and I'll be honest, I go to take a shower,
This is how it always
and
happens.
this is how it happens. I'm like, all right, but I keep the TV on, and I'm thinking, well, it's third period, about 8 minutes to go, 4-1. I'm like getting ready. There's going to be game 7, so I pretty much have already in my mind thinking, well, game 7's coming, so at least I'll have that. I come out here. There's not a post game press conference. It says overtime, and I'm like, how are we in overtime right now? It was 4-1 with 8 minutes
How
to
long
go.
was my shower? That's crazy.
Yes, and I'm like, unreal. So it goes through the entire first overtime. Obviously, nobody scores, so you're going to a double overtime, which it nearly made it through the double overtime, and Florida had a crazy goal by Isaac Nurse
Man,
to win the game, which is incredible. That's an incredible story.
that is so. Just looking at making sure I'm reading the score sheet right. It says the final goal came 1946, so it's counting the opposite way. So there was like 14 seconds left when Chow, who that's the captain, right, scored that goal
Right,
and to tie it up and send it to overtime. I cannot
right,
imagine what that was like to be a part of.
yeah,
That is unreal. This was between that the Hurricanes comeback where they ultimately lost in that one really exciting game, and then the Knicks 29-point comeback against the Spurs. This has been the finals, the comeback finals across all sports, because the same thing happened at the Knicks game. It was a 29-point halftime lead, and I have to make a decision. Like, am I going to stay up and watch a 29-point game, knowing that it's late? I've got a 10-month-old who's going to be up at 6:30 in the morning, or am I just going to go to sleep? And I was like, you need to just go to sleep. And as soon as I went to go to bed, I was like, I know how this turns out. I'm going to miss the most incredible comeback ever. I was reading a little bit. I checked my phone. Sure enough, New York had cut it down to like 17, but I was like, I might still be safe. I can't turn back now. You wake up and you've missed the most ridiculous thing in the world. That is, if you're going to go to bed or you're going to take a shower, you need to know you're going to miss a comeback.
that's when it happens. It always happens. And I watched some of that game as well, and I thought to myself, I thought San Antonio had it, but
I just don't know. So, yeah, the Everblades win the Kelly Cup. Let's see.
you see the shots on goal right there.
Yeah, 56. So that's another good point, because I remember we went to the Stingrays game, and I remember watching Carolina and thinking this is an aggressive team just like the Everblades, because at that Stingrays game, I mean, Florida was just they were just firing. And yeah, 56-28. It is incredible that the score is what it was, because I mean, even 16-2 in the third period, when obviously they're going to be a little bit more aggressive trying to come back. But let me see if I can do some math through regulation. Looks like 37-16 shot advantage through 3 periods. That's absurd. Like,
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So
They were just putting on all the shots, and but yeah, I mean, I'm thinking Kansas City somehow they had the lead, but I guess Florida wasn't about to play a game 7 in Kansas City. It was just it was their passion to get it done in game 6.
Incredible. All right, so that is going to do it for our hockey game coverage. Perhaps something interesting will happen in the offseason we can talk about. Anything else we need to cover before we get out of here and both of us get some sleep?
That was the cap on the season. I think that we ended at an amazing point. I think that I felt like we were all very well entertained.
Yes, for sure.
From an NHL standpoint, I thought that the teams put on an amazing show. They were both very good. And Vegas, kind of a little note on Vegas, I don't think they're going anywhere. I think that I don't expect them to slip down the ladder, if you will. They're a good team. They'll likely have, in my opinion, a different head coach behind the bench.
Oh,
I think that the little bit of chatter I've heard is that maybe John Tortorella was kind of brought in to get the job done, meaning to get them to the Cup, and I think that he got them to the Cup. I mean, maybe we wake up in a week or two and find out maybe it's different, but I think that if I had to say right now, they're probably going to have a different guy behind the bench.
interesting.
But their team will still be really good. Vegas is a destination that a lot of players want to be. So
That would make sense. Good golf weather. And I mean, Marner was incredible. Like that dude,
Right.
he really impressed me. I still haven't picked a team yet. I did find myself at times pulling for Carolina to get it done though. So we'll see. I'm going to I want to kind of take my time with that, let that develop over the course
Right.
of next season, see who I'm drawn to. But yeah, Vegas, they did look really good. So I'm very curious about what they do with Tortorella, because that was a heck of a turnaround after bringing him in. So
yeah, no, I think so. I think that maybe next season we can kind of plan on the calendar and try to get you to a game in person.
that would be unreal, especially the excitement that was coming through the TV. I knew I would care because I like sports, but I didn't think it would get me as much as it got me. And the World Cup is doing the same thing too, where I'm like, why am I yelling? I don't know. I couldn't even told you anything about Cape Verde before today, and now here I am
Right.
yelling about them. So it's very funny how sports makes me a lunatic, and that's why I love it. So I don't know.
Yes, we're all entertained, and I don't think that there's a lack of any level. Really, with all the sports we have going on, right? We're very fortunate to have all the games and these athletes that are playing on such a high level. So I'm just sitting back and taking it all in. So
Yes. And remind the people where they can find the Inside the Arena content and what you're doing
on
there.
Instagram. Yeah, right now I'd like to develop the page a little further. Basically, I've kind of used it as a kind of a way to document when I travel around to different arenas, different games. Right now, it's a lot of the different hockey arenas I've been to, whether it's been in the ECHL or NHL, few junior league teams in the juniors as well. Really, it's just awesome to go inside these buildings and just take it all in and, see it all. But I definitely would like to got some ideas. So we'll get there. But
Awesome.
Stay posted.
Yes, that will be in the show notes. Give him a follow. Keep up with him. He's boots on the ground reporting from these arenas. So it is very cool to see. But yeah, that's going to do it. Again, cannot thank Nick enough for putting us back on the hockey right on time, because that was crazy. But yeah, thank you for watching, listening, rating, subscribing, reviewing, and sharing. And I will catch you later.